Hello, episode 35 of this old show called Let's Talk Games. Yes, we're going to try and power through this one because it's going to be past my bedtime by the time we're done. I'm already,
because you're as old as we are.
Yeah, and I've been having my 3:30 a.m. wake-ups, you know, it's a bit new. Yeah, anyway, so yeah, to your left, as always, you have Dan. How you doing, sir?
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Don't know, who knows. Yeah, I'm going good.
All that shit. And to the other side, you got Jamie. How are you, sir?
Yeah, Dan stole my thing.
Yeah,
can't say that now. Yeah, I'm all right, mate. It's early in the morning for me here.
Very good.
Before work recording, which is ridiculous. We all look tired for opposite reasons to what we usually do. How's that going?
Yeah, I know. But we persevere. And I am thankfully the one and only Uncle Chunt on this earth. Today we've got a few topics. Series X, Xbox, Series X and S review embargoes have dropped and everybody is saying what they feel. Phil Spencer responds to the lack of first party output, and there's a reason for that, which I think is well worth discussing. And then lastly, and this is not because I'm the Xbox person and I decided to choose this one, it's just because it happened and it is a news topic, is that Sony confirms that they won't support the SSD storage expansion at launch. And I think it's worth discussing. And this is my episode, so I chose it. But first off, like we always do, what have we been playing? Dan, we'll start on your side. Go, sir.
Quiet week. I feel like everything is just building towards these new consoles. So mainly playing Madden with my brother. I was actually just playing a little bit more Sleeping Dogs. I totally forgot how bad the driving is in that game. It's not good. It's a bit rough, but I'm persevering through it. And you know, just killing time essentially for next week when Spider-Man rolls around on that new beautiful machine. But no, that's it for me.
Right on. Jamie, yourself playing much?
Not too much. I won't bore you with the FIFA shit. I've been playing that. It's not been a good week. I am in the competitive leagues. There's 10 leagues, so you basically have to qualify for any leagues, and then you go up through 9, 8, 7, 6. Yeah. I've been sat in League 5 for like 2 weeks, and I was one win off being into League 4, and then I just had a shocking day and got relegated to League 6, and I was like, nah, done. I've played a lot of Super Lucky's Tale, though. I started that pretty after we recorded last week. I played like the first 2 whole worlds and 100% at every level. I was like, this is pretty cool. And now I've got my Kishi wherever it's gone. It's not in here. I played a little bit more of that the other day as well, like just using it. It's a type of game you can just sit on the couch and play, so that was quite fun. Yeah, other than that, not a lot. As Dan said, waiting for next gen now. Like, although there's not really anything new to play per se, it would be nice to have something new to play stuff on. It's a weird lull in terms of video games. I think it is just everybody waiting for next gen. So yeah, that's me. What about you?
Yeah, well, since I played Mass Effect Andromeda, finally started that the other night. I kind of dabbled a bit earlier after I finished that big EOS mission where you claim it and you come out and you're like, yeah, we've got a settlement now. We've got a foothold, blah, blah, blah. And you get back to your ship. And after that, I hopped back on the other night and I just walked around and just looked around the available spots that you can go to and checked out a couple areas. And yeah, I was just like, yeah, I wasn't really feeling it. So I just put it down. I haven't played anything since because in my mind, this weekend I'm trading in all my shit. So my console's gone and my Elite's gone and a couple of games are going with it. And so I figured I'll just stop, you know, much like you two. It's like I'll just take it easy until the beautiful monolith enters my realm and I'll start again. So yeah, I haven't really been playing much, so I'm just holding out for Valhalla, really. Hopefully that arrives on the day. But that's another story altogether. So we'll roll on, because we all have the same equivalent answer of like, yeah, we're waiting for our new machines to have some more fun. So speaking of the new machines, everybody's talking about it today because the review embargoes, at least for Xbox's 2 new machines, they've dropped, and people are allowed to say whatever they want with it. And most of the responses are pretty much the same all around. I'll just read out a few kind of titles or brief summaries that you can see around Twitter flowing around from IGN about the Xbox Series X. It's quiet, compact, capable, and loaded with convenience features like instantly resuming and cycling between any of your recently played games. But it lacks first party at launch. And that's going to be a common thread for anywhere you see. GameSpot, much the same. The Xbox Series X doesn't necessarily break ground with its launch lineup or initial feature set, but it is a powerful console with tangible improvements that flexes its power in subtle yet meaningful ways. Indeed. Jeff Keighley, apparently his opinion matters, so I added that here. I've spent a couple weeks with Xbox Series X. Xbox has nailed a fast, fluid, powerful console experience. It is a dream to use, the most player-friendly Xbox yet. Everything from the UI to experience makes the play more seamless. I love the snap-in storage plus quick resume feature. So, I mean, those are 3 pillars of the industry I thought I'd just touch on. There's a lot of other like smaller outlets that have similar veins of thought. You know, and they do touch on Series S stuff. I haven't seen a lot of the Series S stuff, actually. Like, only in the last half hour, I saw, like, Kevin Kensington's thoughts on both of them and Modern Vintage Gamer and all that kind of stuff. I mean, they're very impressed with the Series S for what it is and what it can do, and they say exactly what it is. It's just everything the Series X can do, but at a lower resolution, and that's as simple as the explanation for that console needs to be, you know? And that's great, and they've put it through its paces, and it's what I thought they were always going to be. So based on, like, I assume you guys have had a quick read around the interwebs to get some opinions and, you know, a gauge on what people are saying out there. So, Jamie, I'll start with you. What's your take on all this kind of stuff that's been happening today? Have you had a chance to even look at it?
I looked at a bunch of stuff. Obviously, it was yesterday evening for me, all of this started to drop, and the sentiment is what I expected. You know, we know from the Xbox One X that Microsoft had kind of doubled down on going, nah, our hardware is going to be the shit, and everybody's going to know that it's the most powerful thing on the planet when it comes to console games, and they've just doubled down on that. I don't think that was ever in doubt. The speed, you know, what they've done in terms of the UI and the fluidity, all expected, and the fact that there's no games, also expected. We knew when Halo got delayed that was going to be a problem. It's a massive problem because, as you said, like, what do you need this machine for right now? We've had this conversation a few times over the last few weeks, and I don't think my opinions changed very much. I'm still now more excited for the PlayStation based on the fact that there are experiences happening there that I can't get anywhere else. But I know that down the road, the Xbox will become both my third-party machine and hopefully have some killer first-party titles, given how much Microsoft have expanded their studios in recent years. So yeah, it's pretty much as expected. I don't think anybody's surprised by any of the coverage. As you said, like, literally everybody is saying the same thing. The machine and the experience is fantastic. Maybe even better than some people were expecting, but the fact that there's no launch titles there is just a bit of a, you know, it adds a like a sigh to the. It's like, I've got this powerful box, but I can't really do anything with it. So yeah, nothing out of the new for me there. I don't really have anything else to add on it. I'm just excited to get mine in 4 days time.
Yeah, just hook it and roll on. So Dan, your thoughts? You've had any time to kind of get into it and have a read?
Yeah, I read a few. Read the Digital Foundry one as well. Yes, it's just everywhere. But no, it's all about what we wanted. I probably would change my answer. I remember when we spoke about the 2 consoles ages ago, I was like, oh, Series S is going to outsell so many more Series X's. And that might be true over a longer period of time, but I feel like definitely at launch, there's probably more people that are more wanting to upgrade their machines fully that will go out and get an X now that I've looked at it. Because I think Microsoft have tried to place themselves in certain areas to cover as many people as possible, and they've done a pretty good job with it. So Series S will answer a lot of those people, and Series X can answer a lot of the other people. So, like, it would be hypocritical of me to say, you know, I'm excited for my PlayStation upgrade because I've had a launch PlayStation for the last 7 years. But imagine how many people have an original Xbox One or Xbox One S that are ready to upgrade. So, and then I think they have those options. I think the biggest thing on the S is probably the storage is probably the biggest negative, but I think there's a lot of positives. I think most people are saying, listen, this Series X is running so much better than anything you're playing at the moment, and anything you will play on it will automatically be better just by being on the machine because of optimization or just the power of it. And don't worry, the games are going to come. They might not be there right away, but yeah, it's ready. It's ready for the generation to start.
100%. It's here and ready to go. Like the Series S, surprisingly enough, capable of running Gears 5 optimization at equal level, except just at low resolution. Like,
yeah,
still able to run it at 120 frames a second, you know, with all the whiz-bangery, but just
from some of the Series S stuff, it kind of made me think. It's really like some of the reviews showing how when it tries to upscale or anything like that, and a couple of frame drops people talked about. That's probably the thing that really puts me onto. I think this, if they don't do it with both consoles, the S definitely will be that iPhone model console of just in 2 years' time. They'll just be a little bit more powerful here and there, like little adjustments, and then get people to continue to roll on one to another. Maybe not so much with the Series X.
Yeah, so I heard there was some frame drops with Gears 5 even on the Series X. But that's the Coalition and Ryan McCaffrey both kind of, well, Ryan McCaffrey asked them about it, and they're like, yeah, we know about it. It's just we need to patch that out. It's just more optimization that we haven't done yet. So that kind of goes, all right, no worries. We'll get rid of that soon in a patch or two. And otherwise, it's like a flawless experience. But I am quite surprised with the feedback the Series S has been getting, and I don't think it should be too right to pass it off. Like, I think more people will be interested in it than will initially be aware of, because there's lots of people out there that there's people like us that'll be there day one and they want the big console, you know, the big boy to take home, and would be there day one, and people like me that'll work ways around to pay for it as less as possible, but still get it, you know. But then there's everybody else that doesn't have internet or doesn't have the best internet, isn't too concerned about having multiple games at once. They don't have a 4K TV. Like, there's still heaps of people out there in the world that this is made for, you know, and they're not like me, or, you know, I know Jamie's internet connection is pretty insane, where we can just download a game and it's no big deal. You just go have a shower or something and come back and it's done, you know, and you're ready to go. So
our
I
Discord
think it's
button
going to
got
be
stuck there. You were talking right, and it was still on Dan's face. I was just like, this hasn't changed.
Yeah, you're right.
Click it.
I didn't want to say anything. I was just like, well,
no,
wow,
I
really the face of this thing, aren't I?
Usually I'll just look over, click, and then look back at you guys. And I was like, and I glanced over, I was like, wait, Dan's not talking. Like, what's going on? I had to triple click it. Sorry, John, quitting your train of thought.
You're right. I'll just be in the professional just rolling through it, you know, the technical problems that'll be fixed.
No,
you know,
address them. Head on.
But yeah, so I think it's all positive. Like, obviously it's all positives today. I have seen the typical responses from the other camp jumping into the Twitter threads with you know,
don't get me started.
The damage control, like, you know, denial stuff, and it's like, well, you can't. I mean, the reviews are out and they're all saying it's freaking great. IGN rated the console an 8, which is fair because it doesn't have any kind of
great.
Yeah, it's great, and it doesn't have any flagship like games that are exclusive there that you can only get. You know, so that's fine. That's a point off, which is warranted. And whatever, man. Like, I'm just super excited for it. I can't wait. And just sitting here this week going, yeah, I can wait. I can just not play anything until next week. That's fine. I'm going to go in, I think, either tomorrow or Sunday morning, just get rid of my shit. And I've still got my Switch, so I'm not going to be without, you know, real first world problem that I'm dealing with there on the fly. Yeah, so I wouldn't be too remiss in saying that I might even think about getting an S one day in the future, just as a secondary. You know, maybe on my desk here. I don't know, but I've got remote play now, so I'm sport for choice. But we'll roll this on, so we've got more to talk about. Like, I think it's just everyone agrees it's all positives. There's been no negatives really talked about these consoles, so there's nothing really much to dwell on. But when we just discussed about the lack of games, well, there's not a lack of games. You open up your console, you sign in, and all your library is there. You know, so it's kind of like a whatever if you want to nitpick at it, and your Game Pass is all there. Like, oh, just a little anecdote. My brother, we did game sharing. We finally sorted it out last night, and he's like instantly got my entire library. So he just got his 1S like a handful of months ago because he's just like, I'm over PlayStation. I want to give Xbox a go, and he got one real cheap and signed on my account, all that kind of shit. And we were able to boot up a game at the same time, so it's working, you know, so we can play together. And he's just got like 300 plus games just instantly available to him. So, you know, it's just pretty crazy. And that's going to carry on in the future. So, and there's games that I haven't even played yet, like Valhalla, that's coming out. But as far as first party goes, Phil Spencer kind of came out with a quote saying, I'll just bring it up over here on my side, where his main concern is the health of his teams. And that takes priority over the actual series launch. And he's got long-term decisions to make. So his quote, I won't read the whole article, but his quote about the whole lack of first-party games, like he's aware of it. You know, it's not lost on him, but things have happened that we all know about that I'm not going to reiterate. But he says in the long run, you're making an investment in the best ecosystem for you to go play. That is our focus. I would have loved to have had Halo Infinite at launch. People know that was our original plan. But I also have to be conscious of health and safety of our teams at a time when teams are working in an unprecedented situation with hundreds of people trying to build video games while they're working from home. I don't want to put too much time pressure on the teams so that they work beyond what is healthy for them. So I have to make long-term decisions for the health of the teams and the betterment of the product, and that is what we've done. So that they go into more detail on that article about just pushing out a lot of games, and the game plan had to change at some particular point, and that's what we're seeing now. But look, you know, given everything that's going on, and with the whole cyberpunk thing that happened recently and how people reacted to that and the feedback they're getting, like last week I said I was just very disappointed in humans, you know, with how they treated that particular situation and those people. So I think he's got the right angle, and it's a pretty ballsy decision to make because your whole new console launch has essentially been upended by this unforeseen circumstance, and all of your plans had to change. Like this videos of people opening up Halo Infinite advertising like marketing bundles and, you know, replica helmets and like food brand deals and all this kind of shit, like gift boxes from advertisers and stuff. And you just know that none of that could have been changed because it was all like too much to stop that train, you know, and all this stuff that we're seeing. And it's very disappointing. Obviously as gamers ourselves and people that actually play on the Xbox platform, but it must be doubly so for the actual Xbox teams behind it all. So Phil's always been a bit honest, and it's good to see like he's candor about it. I just think, you know, it's I think it's worth noting this kind of thing. I haven't seen it thrown around the net at all today. I think I saw it on 2 accounts just mentioning it, and I wanted to bring it up today. So you guys, I just thought I'd get your thoughts on it. Jamie, we'll go back to you just to start off with. So when you hear that coming from the big man himself and everything's going on the launch, like, what do you have to say like in response to that?
I call bullshit. There's an element of bullshit there. There is an element of this is a passable excuse. Do you know what I mean? Like, the reality is it is unprecedented times. He is right. Don't stress your teams out. Don't crunch them to the end of the earth. You know, they're working with, for all intents and purposes, maybe new tech, new engines, which, as we were talking about the other day when we were talking about Fable offline, saying, you know, how deep into dev is this? And if it is really early doors, you know, when teams are often collaborating and in an environment where they can just turn around and talk to each other and get something done and figure something out or hit bugs to get, like, that's not easy to do over an internet connection, maybe miles and miles of states apart over there, right? So it's not easy to do. Well, states, they're actually based here in the UK, but I don't know. There's a bit of bullshit. It is a passable answer. It's I'd have preferred it if he came out and said, look, they're going to be worth waiting for. Do you know what I mean? And led with that and gone, look, we're confident in what we're building. It is taking a little bit longer than expected. These are some of the caveats. Look, the rest of the world, just as we are in this predicament. But everything is going to be worth waiting for. And maybe outline a plan, just something like, don't worry, like we will have titles ready for you next year. Or, you know, in the first half of next year, you can expect something for it. And lead just with that and not make it just all about this shit situation that we know we're all in. But yeah, he's great at messaging. We know that. He comes across really well. He's not going to pander to critics. I think Phil Spencer's been great with that since he took over Xbox. He's had to answer a lot of tough questions, and he often diverts, which, you know, anybody does in that scenario, but he is quite genuine in his approach, which is refreshing. Unlike old mate Jim Ryan over at Sony, who I don't trust, like, at all. Nah. Yeah, just not at all. He's got a face that you just can't trust. Whereas Phil Spencer, like, I do, he's not put a foot wrong, really. And he has had to make some tough decisions, and this year has been shit, so kudos on him for that. But I just wish that he'd have led with the confidence in his teams rather than the pandemic. But yeah, good responses all around.
Yeah, 100%. Dan, yourself, as you know, the guy from the other camp, what's your say on it?
Well, I've always said behind Steve Jobs and Kevin Feige, like, Phil Spencer is a nice third spot to that in a company, and not seen as big as the company, so to speak. Like, you know, like Steve Jobs used to walk out in jeans and runners, and Feige's always got his baseball cap on, and he's always talking to fans most of the time, and not like a businessman. And Phil Spencer is exactly the same. And but Jamie's right a little bit too. I think everyone should basically just let it be that, like, COVID is a real excuse. And when anybody says, oh, what's happening with the delay, the first, like, if you're a journalist and you're asking that question, you should expect the first answer is going to be, well, COVID has kind of put us in a tricky position, which is all true. I think part of this is all softened by the fact that they announced really early on that a lot of these first-party games were not coming until 2022. So that kind of put everyone's expectations on check. I still think there's still room for some second-party games out there, possibly. But it's a... You can tell it hurt to not have Halo in there, but it's just trying to think of, like, there's not really many ways that he could have gone with a statement talking about that stuff.
Yeah, and how many other different ways can you say it?
And I think Jamie, Jamie, you went on Playground Games website, like the careers website, and they were missing some, like, senior people still at this point. So I think they are still trying to figure out how to work these studios in a creative way. Like, it's good to let everyone free to make what they want, but I think that's how you get games like Scalebound also get too far off track and then have to cancel it. I think the stuff at 343 that clearly they're trying to get a hold of. Hopefully that's not happening with Playground Games, and whether that's them making another Forza or they've ditched Forza and just concentrating on Fable, who knows? But it would just, I think they've got possibly some work behind. Studios are running efficiently, not to say to make them work harder, but just efficiently. But that's like any studio. That's not just a...
Yeah, I think you're probably right there. I think they want to get all their ducks in a row, so to speak, so they don't have another 4-year period, 2013, where everything just kind of fell apart. You know, I think they're just like, all right, let's take our time in getting this shit sorted.
Damn, you better change me this time.
I already have. Your camera just keeps freezing. I clicked Chunt twice and it just doesn't want to click him.
Oh, that's all right. I don't want to see myself either.
Oh, we can go to the live screen. Your one just doesn't work today, Chunt, apparently. It just stays...
Oh, that's all right. It's fine. I won't take it personal at all. But no, I think I agree with you there. Like, I want to see them take their time and get their plan in place and structure in place and ready to go. Like we all discussed, I think I'll just touch on it just briefly before we move on. We're all discussed how many games we're not discussed that we've all got so many games that we're trying to catch up on, and going forward into next gen that we're going to try and be a bit more mindful of what games we're playing, how many we're buying, you know, that whole let me finish a game before I buy another one, and not be too like FOMO, you know, when a launch game comes out or a game releases that you're looking forward to. They're always going to be there. Why do you need to just buy another one? You know, I'm totally guilty of that. I've got a library full of it. So I'm in like no rush because of just that alone. I've got so many games to get to that are quite big and substantial and that are going to get Series X patches and optimization that I'm not too fussed that I haven't played them yet, because they're going to be better by the time I get to them. You know, like Star Wars Fallen Order, I haven't got to that yet, and that's coming to Game Pass. Like I was just like, man, I bought that game like months ago. Now I haven't even played it, and now it's come to Game Pass. Like far out, like, whatever.
I weirdly might start it again. I'm about halfway through. I'm on the third planet on PC, but I might just start it again for achievement's sake.
Yeah, 100%. Why not?
And see comparably how it looks. Because I think when I played that, I was playing it in 1440p ultra wide. I had my curved display before I upgraded, and it looked unreal. But it'd be pretty cool to see how it looks in HDR, and I think it's got native support. So yeah, I bet it looks awesome, and I hope that it's got an uncapped frame. Please have an uncapped frame rate, and don't just be stuck at 30. Sorry, I keep cutting you off anyway.
No, you're right. And like all these games, they look just so good already. So I think a lot of these will tie us over. So just in that regard, it's not like an Xbox Defender comment. It's just, I have so many games, I don't need any more new ones. And like Valhalla and Gears Tactics at launch, holy shit, I'm going to be fine. Going to be fine. But not be seen as fine is that I'm going to talk about some PS5 stuff, like I mentioned at the top of the show. Dan, I'm going to look for your opinion on this. Where Sony has confirmed, as I mentioned, that the SSD storage expansion slot on the console itself won't be supported at launch, which is interesting because, I mean, that was a bit of a focal point on their teardown of what you can do for the expansion. I don't know if this has changed since this came out, but the PS5 not supporting 1440p resolution natively. Apparently confirmed that. Mind you, that only really bothers people that are going to use monitors, so it's not going to bother you too much, but still, it's a thing of like, why? Why is that a thing? Why are these a thing? So
the Xbox will scale from 480p all the way up to 4K with every increment in between. Like, it's not difficult to set a resolution slider. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just not.
Yeah. Well, I was going to point to you, Jamie, on that. Like, because you're the guy you're real like into that stuff. Yeah. You know all about the ins and outs. So, like, Jamie, can you speak on that? Like, you're aware of it. I think we brought.
Oh, like you nailed it on the head. Really, it doesn't need to. That machine doesn't need to output 1440p really, but you've got to think about the people who do use monitors. And as if you look to whose coverage was IGN's coverage of the Xbox, and they were saying, like, you know, when you look at an upscaled 1440p image from the Series S, it looks very muddy, and the same thing would happen if you were trying to output a 1440p image to a 4K screen. It's going to look muddy. It's not going to look right. So fair play that they're going, look, 1080p or 4K, that is what is in most people's living rooms, right? And if you upgrade from 1080p, you're going to 4K if you're staying in the living room. But there are so many people that play video games at a desk on a high refresh rate monitor, even on console. And when they're touting things like 120 frames a second on consoles, monitors from January onward are going to start supporting HDMI 2.1, and they're going to have these refresh rates. So, you know, what about the person who goes, all right, I'm sitting an arm's length away from this 27-inch monitor. It's a 1440p panel. It's HDMI 2.1. It can refresh at 120 frames a second. You don't have an option on PlayStation. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like basically you're going to use 1080p and that's it. So it's a bit weird. I don't know if they can maybe down the road patch that and just, it's a system level thing. Shouldn't be a hardware output thing. It should just be at a system level. So yeah, it's a weird thing. It's another. I keep saying Sony keep doing weird shit. Do you know what I mean? It's like this needs to be a nothing story. It should just be, yep, we support all the resolutions, but no, you've got to have a conversation around something strange that they're doing. So yeah, that's my context for that bit. It's a bit weird.
Well,
It doesn't affect any of us.
They can do a firmware upgrade to the fan in the console, so it's who knows what they can do down the line. But it's, I don't know. But does the extra, like, because you mentioned the Series S and how it's a little bit muddy, upscaling. Would the extra power in a PlayStation 5 help with that or not?
No. Because what's happening then is your TV or your monitor or your screen is trying to correct the resolution from the signal that it's getting from the box to make it native. And that's post-processing. So not only does that look muddy and terrible, quite often it will increase things like input delay on your controller and you'll feel a lot of weird stuff like that. I don't know if either of you have ever tried it. Downsampling's fine. So if you're on a 1080p screen, so like the Series X, if you were playing on that and it was outputting everything at 4K, but you only had a 1080p screen, you'd have a crisper image. It'd look nicer. The inverse is if you upscale. So yeah, a bit like Chunt, if you were using your projector and that's a 1080p output, it'll accept a 4K signal, but its output is 1080. That's going to be crisper than if you set that to 1080 because it's downsampling. Whereas if you go in the opposite direction, it's going to look muddy and terrible and just not really worth doing. Which is why, like, on this conversation of kind of resolutions and stuff, like, I agree with a lot of the sentiment that anybody who has kind of a 4K setup in their living room or at their desk or whatever it might be, if you're going Xbox way, like, invest in the Series X, like, because you're going to outgrow that Series S, not in terms of just storage and everything, but in terms of your experience. It's not going to be great. I think IGN did put up, Chunt, you maybe watched their full kind of 2-hour show where they were showcasing everything. There was a point where they put or it was maybe in the review, where they had Red Dead Redemption on both machines and they captured a screen from it side by side. And that just kind of highlights what I'm talking about. Like, they're not making it up when they go, this looks muddy and weird. You just have to look at the clouds. Like, it's like a painting, whereas on the Series X, you can clearly see defined clouds. So it is a thing. I think people are right to talk about it. I think people are right to be a little bit irked by it, especially, if it is one of these people that do, maybe have a desk with a monitor that's got a laptop connected to it, and then they have their console hooked up to it as well, and that's where they spend the most of their time. I did that for 4 years in Australia. When I lived there, I had every console and my PC and everything all connected to a desk setup, very much similar to what I will now. Like, I work from my PC, I play games from my PC, but my consoles will go sit on the shelf behind me, and then I'll use them in the lounge if I want to. Like, it's that freedom of choice, which it kind of erodes. But again, all of this is hyperbole on the fact that, do you have a 1440p monitor? Which
Well, I will say on your comment about how how Microsoft are making like anything from 480 to 4K and anywhere in between. Like, I feel like the people at Cyberpunk right now trying to make sure that Cyberpunk's running on a PS4 and an original Xbox One might say it's not that easy. There's still a lot of testing that needs to be done with that stuff. And we know that Sony, the way that they've set up is that they have to test every single game. And I think they've just gone, we need to test every single game on 1080 and we need to make sure every game works. If it can do 4K, then make sure it works on 4K. I reckon they just went, it's not worth our time, because they don't have...
That's not the signal output, though. That's not what the game engine's rendering at. That's what the console sends the signal at from the box to the TV, so it's nothing to do with the developers. It's just a case of going... as I was saying about Chunt's scenario, so if he's playing Gears of War, which on your Xbox One X at the moment will be a 4K 30 output, you could still take that 4K 30 output that the game engine is rendering, set your Xbox to be a 1080p image on your display, and have a crisper image because it's downsampling what the engine's putting out. So that's all that kind of having those resolution options. Don't get me wrong, like freaking 480, 560, nobody has that. that invokes you're playing on a CRT, for God's sake. Like, so somebody is going to the effort of converting a HDMI signal to an analog signal to plug that into a CRT screen to play in 560p or 480p or whatever the hell the numbers are. Like, it is irrelevant going that low down, but no, I get your sentiment, but yeah, that shouldn't affect the developers. The developers will be developing for 4K, and the consoles will do everything else.
So to jump onto the storage part of the story, it is weird, but I think just like it's catch-22 either way you do it, because you're either on the Microsoft side at the moment where you're worrying about having to spend, what is it here, $250
$350
for external storage, or you're on the Sony side and you're letting manufacturers kind of compete against each other, but right now no one can just make what Sony require for that, so they have to wait for the market to kind of catch up. So it depends on which way you go. I think Chun and I are both on the same aspect here, where like, just delete your game. It's fine.
Yeah,
you don't need that many games. You don't need that many games on your console. And by the time you get a little bit in and you do want to upgrade, they'll probably be there by that time. Like, we've heard from places like Western Digital that they're already got one coming at some point relatively soon. It just won't be there at launch. So
I've seen
it's
that.
catch-22. Do you want the really expensive proprietary thing, or do you just have to wait until the market decides to catch up?
I've seen that as a major gripe in all these reviews of like, oh, I've only been able to install 20 games and I'm already out of space. It's like, really? Like, do you need those 20 games installed all at once? And if you say, yeah, I do, I don't believe you, because how are you going to play all those at once? You can't tell me that
quick resume.
Yeah. Oh, I can quick resume on my games like 5 or 6 at a time, man. Like, yeah, but then you've still got 15 you're not playing, dickhead. It's like, really, like, every waking day, you can't tell me that you're anxious that I don't have Roblox installed on my console for this particular day, that I need Roblox because Minecraft isn't working or something, and I need Gears of War installed because sometimes Halo multiplayer pisses me off, so I need to be able to swap between them. And then Destiny, I might go to Crucible and get owned, so then I need to go back to Minecraft and hope it works. Like, I don't know. And then you've got like countless other games. I don't believe it. I really don't, particularly with the Series S reviews. It's like, oh, I only got 5 big games on it and 3 little indie games on it, and then it ran out of space. And like, what's your point? Like, it was the same issue this generation, where most of the consoles started at 500 gig, and yeah, they weren't as big, but then they slowly did, like the average 40 50 gig now, and it's still what it is now. So I just don't see that argument as being a thing. And I see these other Facebook groups of like, oh, I've got a 4 terabyte external hard drive connected at all times, so I can have all my games ready at any time I need it. It's like, fuck off, man. Like, you don't need it. Like, it's just, I get it, I really do. But
on that point as well, so you can still hook up an external hard drive to the PlayStation,
yes,
and play PlayStation 4 games off that hard drive. The only reason you need it on the actual SSD is if you're playing PlayStation 5 games. Like, they need that SSD to run PlayStation 5 games. But if you're bringing over PlayStation 4 games, like if I wanted to bring over Sleeping Dogs and I had it on my external hard drive, I can still play that game off the external hard drive if you're just playing a PlayStation 4 game. So it depends on what you're wanting to get out of it, but I don't see that this is a problem right now.
No, it's not. Like, that aspect's not a problem. I agree with you. But the point I bring it up for is because it's like, why is that feature not ready at launch? Like, why? Like, I don't believe that, well, none of the cards are ready for it yet. It's like, well, so what? Like, it's just another thing that's just not ready.
They're not ready. The cards are not ready. And the thing that they've done there is, it's like I said to you, I think that's why, everybody's like, oh, the PlayStation 5's read-write speeds are way faster than the Series X. But Microsoft have got storage ready now, and the reason that they've done that is because the technology that they're using exists now. The technology that PlayStation are using is, although based on NVMe, is proprietary. Like, no aftermarket card on the market, we're saying card, like storage card on the market, is fast enough to equal what the PlayStation's doing. And it's because, as I was saying to you guys yesterday, it's boosted to, I think, between 5 and 5.5 gig a second, which
it needs to be more than 5 and 5.5,
which is ridiculous because the current NVMe 4 standard is 5. You know, at an absolute max clock is 5. So they're actually waiting. You're not going to be able to do anything until Gen 2. Like I say Gen 2, that's going to get confusing in messaging. The Gen 4 cards, NVMe M.2 cards, the Gen 4 ones, they're going to have to wait for the second variant of them that ups the clock speeds. And God knows when they're going to come out. I know that we obviously saw Western Digital did a live stream of all of their new storage things a few weeks ago, and they're like, look, this one is ready for PlayStation. So why have PlayStation not certified it? I can't say that I've looked at the specs on it, but I said to you guys yesterday, I noticed a massive drop in price of current NVMe drives after this news came out yesterday. They were sitting around the 250 mark here in the UK, and they're down to kind of 130 now. Like, they literally, I think PlayStation have shafted a few people with this, because there's no doubt people out there that went, I've bought a NVMe drive that is Gen 4, it clocks up to 5 gig like a second, great stuff, I can put this straight in my PlayStation. No, you can't. It has to hit 5.5, and it's just not necessary. It's not necessary now, and it's not going to be necessary for another 5 or 6 years. I get that developers want faster storage to build bigger worlds and that they can stream them into the console quickly. Awesome. But it's not relevant now. Like, those worlds are not going to exist for the better part of a decade, so why not have slightly slower storage? Let's be honest, none of us are going to notice 4.5 gigabytes a second compared to 5 gigabytes per second. That is imperceivable to any of us. It'd be half a millisecond at most when you were loading a game. It'd be absolutely nothing. So just do that and then let people use the aftermarket. It doesn't make any sense. Again, it's great that they've got this tech. They're pushing the industry forward. Consoles never, ever get shit first. PC always gets stuff first. And this is the one time it's happened. And it's just proving why it doesn't happen. Developers build games on what? PCs.
Yeah.
They're outpacing the tech of what developers. It boggles my mind. But anyway, yeah, I'll stop ranting now. Kind of just
no.
Throwing
I
in.
appreciate the input. You're the guy that knows about all this kind of stuff.
I really do think everybody's criticizing Microsoft for having slightly slower storage, but that's what Microsoft have done. We know they're in the PC space. They own Windows, for God's sake. They've sat there and gone, we could probably do that, but why the hell would we? It's more expensive for us to produce. It's less user-friendly, and our developers are going to struggle to build for it. So let's just use this. Job done. It's already, 900 million times faster than what's in the current consoles. So, win-win. It's weird.
Yeah, well, when all these guys are playing God of War and Horizon 2 and, whatever, Uncharted 50, they're not going to be really too bothersome about it. They'll be too caught up in their own game. So it's like Dan said, it's catch-22, and it's however you want to take it. I just think it's just one of those funny points to bring up. That's why I wanted to touch on it. But look, I think the whole games, video game industry, like media coverage thing, it's just been a really big what the fuck in the last year or so. Like, every time it's like, what the hell? Like, not just the outlets, but the people that are out there covering it as well, just like independents or, Joe Blows like us. Some of them are just really worrisome, like how obsessed they get over this kind of stuff. Like, yeah, we've brought up some of this stuff to talk about because it's interesting discussion points, but none of us are going to leave tonight going, you know what? I'm literally not going to sleep tonight because I can't get that card in my PS5 at launch. But there's people out there that are like online like the whole live long day. It's just crazy. Like, I've gotten a bit over it. And I think it's because of this whole lengthy launch period. like this news cycle that's been like a whole year's worth of like drip fed stuff, you know.
So elongated, so unnecessary.
Plus E3.
Well, it didn't. I hope that, fingers crossed, you know, hopefully we are in a better position come E3 time next year. You know, there was a lot of conversation this year going, should this be the way we do things from now on? Please, for the love of God, no. Like, go back to just telling us everything in a 2 or 3 week period. Let us digest it, and then just go back to normal, because it has been completely laborious. And Chunt, as you keep saying, like, you're excited for things to just go back to normal and people to start talking about, you know, the games they're enjoying playing in a couple of weeks, which I really hope that is kind of the direction that we go in. But no, I'd agree with you. It has been a hell of a long year in terms of coverage of anything to do with games. And
but hey, look, in our last moments. Sorry, Dan, you go. I'll say my last bit after
I was just going to say, like, people need to breathe, right? Like, I feel like these last 2 weeks, because we've been waiting for the consoles, I'm just like, oh, now might be a good time just to take a breath, because there's not going to be anything. But, like, I'm so worried tomorrow is, like, the embargo for PlayStation 5 reviews or something, you know? Like, they just drop it because Xbox dropped theirs. And, like, I'm just... it's like, I want to breathe, and it's just... if I do that, I'll get... like freaking whiplash, because more news will come out about something.
And a lot of it's nothing news, and that's the thing you've got to remember. Like, it is, you know, you do, like you said, none of us are going to lose sleep over the fact that we can't upgrade the storage of our PlayStation 5 because there's not that many PlayStation 5 games. Do you know what I mean? It is the case of, you won't, you know, if you plug your external drive into your PlayStation 5, you're not going to get the benefits of the load times and things like that. But if you wanted to just boot up something that you Uncharted 4 and you go, I fancy running around as Drake for a little bit, like, oh, I have to wait 30 seconds for it to load because it's on this external drive, which I've looked at for my exactly, just move it onto the drive as you want to use it, which is actually the approach I think I'm going to take with the Series X. I've still got an external drive, like 2 terabyte drive that's full of Xbox One games. It's sat in my drawer. Like, I should just be able to plug that in and go, all right, if I'm going to move something here, there. And the one question I have about that, and I don't expect either of you to have the answer because I don't think they've even said it, but Chunt, our whole new thing of booting our phones up and turning them into Xboxes. If I have a game stored on my external drive and then want to use remote play via the cloud for my library, and it's on that external drive, is it still going to work properly?
It's accessible to you on the console, so if you take control of the console.
So it'll just take a fucking eternity to load, basically, is the...
Well, I mean, you could remotely move it to the internal.
True, I could. That's what I mean, yeah. So I've just plugged that in and then move games as I want them to the internal drive. But I have exactly 1 minute and 30 seconds before I have to start work, so Chunt, you better sign us off.
Right, well, I forgot what I was going to say anyway. So we're done. Righto, that was episode 35. And I'm Uncle Chunt, and that's Dan, and that's Jamie. I'm going to go to bed, and bye.
I'm definitely going to wash my hands.